Good afternoon. Welcome to the weekly livestock market update. I'm Brownfield Anchor reporter Meghan Grebner. With us, as always, to talk all things markets is University of Missouri, Scott Brown. Good afternoon, Scott.
Good afternoon, Megan.
Happy Friday to you. I guess we will talk one more time before Christmas holiday. In the very, very short holiday week next week.
That's right. That's right. One more left before Christmas.
That's today. And it's really kind of a light week for us when it comes to reports. So we'll talk a little cattle on feed. We'll preview a little hogs and pigs this week. But to get things started, let's recap what happened this week in the markets.
Yeah, this week in the markets, if we look at live cattle, they were 80 cents lower this week. While those feeder cattle auctions, which are probably the last we're going to get for this year, were anywhere from steady to $4 higher this week. On the futures side, the February live cattle futures contract was up $1.40, while that January feeder cattle futures contract closed up 90 cents. This week, March corn was up 14 cents as well. So feed costs moved higher after taking a break the last couple of weeks. On the beef side, choice box beef prices were down nearly $12 this week. That actually puts them almost $3 below where they were a year ago at this time. On the hog side, cash barrel and gilt prices were $1.20 lower this week, while the February lean hog futures contract was actually up nearly $2.70. Pork cutout value was also down this week, down $4. It put it $3.40 below year ago levels.
Scott, when we take a look at this, is it going to, I'm assuming next week's going to be pretty sluggish. This is kind of the last full week before the end of the year. Will everything kind of take a breath more than likely, especially when we look at what happened with the cattle on feed report today and markets next week?
I would assume so, Megan. We'll chug along probably a little sideways. However, I remind us a big disease event like BSE that we had back in the early 2000s can certainly catch us all off guard on a Christmas week. But by and large, I think everything we see, we're going to get a lot of marching sideways here until we get serious about where these markets stand as we enter early 2021.
All right, let's talk a little slaughter. We kind of have been recapping since the coronavirus pandemic and the disruptions in the supply chain, where we are slaughter-wise. As we take a look at those cattle numbers, things are looking like we're playing a little bit of catch-up, or we are pretty close to being caught up.
It would certainly appear so, especially when we look at some of the weight information that we're getting out on the cattle side. But this week, slaughter numbers on the cattle side, 659,000 head. Hog side as well, another nice run, 2.792 million head of hogs this week. That's up 30,000 head from where we were a week ago. If you look at those weights that we got out this week, the tale of two cities certainly unfolding in that cattle weights have come right back after being 25, 30 pounds above year ago levels in the worst of the backup to now talking about up 5 pounds. Hard to believe we have come to the point where an additional 5 pounds of weight doesn't bother us. But after what we've come through, it's a much different picture. However, on the hog side, after what was a period where we were kind of getting weights this year back to year ago levels, we've been seeing that expand on the hog side. We're back up 4 pounds or so with some of that latest data. So a little different story, what's happening on the hog side.
But they sure, I feel like, are doing a pretty good job making sure we're not being backed up any further in the production system as they keep moving at that 2.7 million head clip week after week.
Yeah, and I agree, Megan. And I think when you look at what's happening there on the hog side, it's a little bit of a mixed bag as you go around the country. I think the Midwest in particular is in a much better situation than maybe we're seeing in the Southeast with more hogs backed up in that part of the country. Really what I believe is adding a lot of the additional weight we're seeing right now.
Cattle on feed is our big story of the week as we take a look at those numbers. Any big surprises this month?
Frankly, no big surprises at all. It's given what we've come through and a lot of surprises as we had to deal with COVID-19 issues on cattle placed in feed yards. The numbers came in right at pre-report estimates. On feed December 1 was exactly equal with the year ago level. While we look at those placements in November. That tallied 91.1% of a year ago. Actually a little below the midpoint of the range, that pre-report range. That was came in at 91.8. So by and large, I think we're going to find favorable information. Even the marketed side, if you look at marketings in November, the report told us 98.3. That's actually a little above the midpoint of 97.9 of the pre-report estimate. So marketed better in November, placed less than the pre-trade guess, and on feed December 1, right in line with pre-report estimates.
As we take a look, though, at these numbers that came in this month, how does that set us up as we head into 2021?
Yeah, actually really good. It's a good question to ask, and a little bit of back up to earlier parts of this year. When you looked at February this year, we were actually down 154,000 head of placements. So you take the January placements, February placements, those 2 months down 154,000 from the previous year. We all know what happened in March, April, May. We got ourselves to where we were 1 million head below year ago levels in the worst of that kind of COVID-19. From there, we actually built a little bit, and we got ourselves to where we only down 634,000. But as we've kind of looked at the last couple of months, we're back on this lower number, if you will. So nearly 1 million head below year to date, looking January through November. To me, that's some good news as we think about 2021, in that perhaps fewer finished cattle to deal with. Another reason, you take the combination of weights getting back to year ago levels and less placements, we could be in a much different situation in terms of beef supplies, and get these restaurants to open back up post COVID in summer of 2021. I'm not saying we couldn't have some positive and potentially really positive outcomes from all of that.
Does it also stress and maybe remind us to manage risk, and not just the input costs, but making sure we take advantage when we see some upside potential?
Absolutely. If 2020 hasn't taught us anything about risk management, I don't think we're ever going to learn anything in the cattle industry. But we do want to take advantage. We can try to wait and hit the top of the market, but there's certainly risk in that strategy. So I hope folks will, if we get some better prices as we move into 2021, we'll at least take advantage of part of that. And again, I've talked about just higher feed costs. That could be still the downside of this as we go into 2021, especially if China continues to demand a lot of corn and soybeans from the United States.
We're going to talk a little preview of hogs and pigs ahead of next week. And typically we don't, but there's some interesting numbers that are coming out that is something that we definitely are going to need to watch.
Yeah. If you look at the pre-report estimates, kept for breeding or sow inventory came the average of the pre-report estimates say 98.2, so down 1.8% relative to where we were a year ago. So contraction, which is good news. If we think about some of the other numbers that we have here in the report, December through February, farrowing intentions were also at 98.2, while next March through May farrowing intentions were at 98.6. All those things say fewer numbers for us. Maybe the one that catches my attention a little bit, hogs under 50 pounds, that weight inventory classification at 97.6 tells me fewer hogs as we get into 2021. Maybe we'll be in better shape on the supply side. The ranges are wide enough that although most folks will suggest we'll be down in sow inventory, the rest of the categories could show up to get the upper end of those. Not a lot of change, but maybe some good news. Maybe supplies are going to be much slower growing in 2021, and all of a sudden we get a demand pop as maybe we come out of COVID-19. Could be a better year ahead. I've seen some out there being pretty bullish. I'm not ready to be quite there yet, but there's some reasons to be more positive.
We can hold on to as much optimism as we can for right now, right?
That's about as positive as an economist gets for you, right?
I will take it. Scott, that'll do it for us this week as we take a look ahead to next week, a very busy short week for us.
That's right. We start on Tuesday with cold storage, and then on Wednesday we'll get both livestock slaughter and hogs and pigs as we get close to that Christmas holiday.
Well, hopefully Santa's not bringing coal for anybody this year.
That's right. Maybe we'll get something really positive out of these reports and give folks some optimism. You know, it's been a tough year, and it would sure be nice to have some positive news as we enter 2021.
I will tell you, I wrote 2021 on a program as I was working ahead to get into the new year for the first time, and I was like, oh, thank you. It's nice to see a different year for once.
I know we'll talk about 2020 for a long time to come. It sometimes reminds me, you know, we get 10 years down the road and we're going to have these new people in the industry going, what in the world happened in 2020? And I'm more than happy to put it in the rearview mirror and not talk about it ever again.
We still may not know in 10 years what happened in 2020.
Maybe I'm being too optimistic right there. Huh?
Scott, always good to see you. We will see you again next Thursday.
That sounds great, Megan.
Have a great weekend. To have our weekly livestock market update delivered to your email box, visit our website, brownfieldagnews.com. You can also submit questions and comments there as well. And for all of the great Brownfield podcasts, go to brownfieldagnews.com/podcast. Have a great weekend. I'm Meghan Grebner for Brownfield.